Shalom, shalom. Welcome back to Jerusalem. Good to be learning with you again. My name is Michael Lawrence. Great that we're together to learn the Torah portion again. This week, Parashat Terumah in the book of Exodus, the portion called Terumah, which in English means offering. You know, it's interesting in the years that we've had now, and we're in now, 2020 and 2021, two things bring to the surface sometimes many tensions in a society, in a community. Certainly the COVID crisis, the COVID pandemic, Corona across our nations has brought much tension, much disagreement about the pandemic itself, about how to treat it, about lockdowns and different rules and regulations, and how in fact now we should relate to this vaccine which is now available. And we're seeing that, of course, speeding ahead in Israel, thank God, and hopefully soon in many parts of the world. The other thing which has come to the surface, and we're facing this for the fourth time in 2 years, and that is it's election season here again in Israel. And it's a very complicated time. I think it's a time when people really have again a look at themselves and they say, who am I? Who represents me the best? And there are so many different factors which play into that equation that we all make. And we've seen it around the world, in the United States, in the UK and elsewhere over the last couple of years, just how elections have such an influence on our daily life and our daily way of thinking and the way that we relate to others in our communities. In this week's parasha, this week's Torah portion, it's fascinating. There's actually an intricate list and instructions about how we build the Mishkan, how we build that tabernacle, that mobile tabernacle in which God can dwell in the desert. And if you go through this week's parasha, if you're an architect, a builder, or of that type, this is your Torah portion. Tremendous detail, which wood, exactly the measurements, how things should be built, with which materials, and so on and so forth. Great care is taken in building this holy model that will be carried for those years in the desert. And then later, of course, these objects which are built inside will be taken through to the Beit HaMikdash, to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. One of those special things, and there are many, of course, building their descriptions in this week's Torah portion of building the Shulchan, which is the table, and the Ark, the Aron, and the beams, hakrashrim, and the parochet, the partition. All these things make up, and more, make up those parts of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. But one in particular caught my attention this week, and I want to talk about it in light of tensions around elections and pandemic and so on and so forth. And that is the menorah, the lamp. The lamp in the tabernacle, which has 6 stems. It's a very famous, of course, we know it, all of us know it, the famous Jewish symbol, which of course also is part of the symbol of the modern state of Israel. Something which stood both in the tabernacle at that time and also later in the temples in Jerusalem. Now, what's fascinating about it, if we look, and you can open up to the book of Exodus chapter 25, verse 31, and you see immediately, and I'll read, make a menorah, make that lamp out of pure gold. The menorah shall be formed by hammering it. Its base, stem, and cups, spheres, and flowers must be hammered out of a single piece of gold. One piece of gold, you bring a pure piece of gold, and you build from it the entire menorah, the entire 6-stemmed lamp, and all parts of it. But not only once does this week's portion talk about that single piece of gold. If you turn also to verse 36 in the same chapter, we have as follows. It says there, the spheres and branches shall be an integral part of the menorah, of the lamp. They shall all be hammered out of a single piece of pure gold. Now that's interesting, isn't it? You have all these remarkable measurements and ways to build things, but when it comes to the menorah, the one that gives off light, the one that is the symbol of everlasting, of God's everlasting presence, the Jewish people's everlasting nature. That in fact it is that where, as a symbol, as strong as it is, it must be made of one pure piece of gold. Now, when you consider what I've just been saying about the tensions in societies and about different challenges to a society or community or a country or a global humanity, when we think about it, the menorah, the symbol of continuity, the symbol of light, the symbol of holiness and presence, actually gives us a message. We are all made up of different things, and the menorah itself is made up of different branches and a base and a stem and different cups and what they call flowers. But at the end of the day, we all come from the same piece, the same holy piece. Each of us is made b'tselem Elokim. Each of us is made in the image of God. We come from that same piece of pure gold. And if we remember that, then I think perhaps we're going to be able to much better navigate election seasons, different kinds of political challenges, global challenges, challenges in our lives, personal and communal. And I think if we end by going back to the very first sentence, the very first verse of this week's parasha, we're here, of course, in chapter 25, verse 1. It says, God spoke to Moses saying, speak to the Israelites and have them bring me an offering. That's that word, Terumah. And what is the offering? It says, take my offering from everyone whose heart impels him to give. Those who give should be those whose heart tells them to give, that they are inspired to give, that they feel good about giving. It's not only about the if and the what and the when of giving, it's about the how. And when we give in a way that is positive, with good intentions, when we want to contribute, in this case to the building of the tabernacle as a community, as an individual as part of the community, but when we do it from a place of good, when we do it from a place of love, from our heart, it means that much more. And that is what Hashem, what God was looking for at the beginning of this parasha. So when we're trying to build community, when we're trying to safeguard and preserve community, even in difficult times, give from the heart. Give to your community. Give to those around you, but give from a place of good. And remember, we come from just one piece. We are all made of the same pure gold. We will have differences. We will have disputes. But let that be a message to us from this week's Torah portion, to be patient with each other and think once, twice, three times as we engage with the other and we learn from the other. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, peace upon all of us, and I look forward to learning with you again next week. Thank you.
나는 너희의 여호와 하나님, 내게 준 약속 한순간도 잊은 적 없고 다시 너희를 이스라엘로 부르기 나와